question was put forth regarding how certain yogin use meditation to develop certain psychic abilities, when the desire to achieve anything at all itself results in a state vector collapse, or the collapse of the meditative state. Ritambhara pragya is a state of complete synchronization with the universal nature. Some say Mother Nature. It's union, yoga, the goal of the yogin. Now, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he says this about Ritambhara pragya. He says, this level of consciousness knows only truth, and it's possible to be established on this level, the finest level of feeling between the fields of thought and pure consciousness of being. And since feeling is closest to being, it's very powerful, and the finest level of feeling is the reservoir of all power, from where everything is possible. The field of all possibility is characterized by Sat, truth. And when we're able to function from this level, we're able to do so with the support of all the laws of nature which make their home here. This finest level of feeling is that of Ritambhara pragya. And all knowledge at this level of consciousness is infused with truth. He goes on to explain that when we meditate, we're able to more and more effortlessly get in touch with this level of functioning. And so this question concerning the breakdown of the meditative state when there's a desire for any achievement should be understood to have itself gone completely off the path of truth, insofar as the strident negation of human desire is, from a nihilistic perspective, a perverted desire for achievement in its own right. Now, I've lived with the yogi, as a human being, for half my life, and this is what I've learned. The meditative state, once achieved, doesn't break down. Every perspective and operation is conducted from within that state, and it can never be otherwise. It's impossible. It's like saying that you know something sometimes, or you are something sometimes, but not at others. This unsteady, bipolar way of being indicates something that's off altogether, and it's not the subject of yoga or meditation. Take it like this. Yogin enjoy chai. Sometimes with lots of milk, sometimes only a little. Sometimes we stock up on cans of condensed milk because the sweet is really good for the body in its way, and it tastes good. And sometimes we go for lemon tea, or sometimes for straight black coffee. And sure, there's a rule. 2 spoonfuls of dal, 2 roti, bas. That's beans and bread. And it means you just take a little. It's far enough. But the desire is there for nourishment. It doesn't go overboard into gluttony. But you see, this idea that the ego must be destroyed in order to achieve the meditative state or a happy, satisfied, fulfilled life is a severe misconception, itself at the heart of a great deal of suffering. Ego means identity, ahamkara in the terminology of the yogin. Now, this is only one of 4 dimensions of mind, the others being manas and buddhi and citta. It's a broad and deep study which leads into further dimensions and analytics, including systems of gunas and tattvas and this and that. Point is, in short, there's no need to think about killing off parts of you. Simply not to be attached to any one part inordinately while being all of that. Besides, who is it that's attached to any of that, huh? Who does ahamkara belong to? Who is the operator standing at the center of your operations, huh? Siddha yogin will use meditation to develop psychic abilities. It's their purpose. It's the reason why they're here. Meditation is the tool and the process that allows them to do so. When you look at meditation from the perspective of Patanjali's dharana or dhyana or samadhi, and consider that it's only samadhi that means meditation, it becomes necessary then to define the levels of samadhi in order to avoid the misunderstanding again that there is some state to break down. The same goes for the Buddhist jhana constructs. And it's also incumbent upon anyone analyzing these mystical matters to properly define terminology, as it's these definitions and the rigidity of the dichotomies themselves which lead to so much more confusion and further suffering. What, after all, is a psychic ability? We have senses. How is it that the 5 physical senses became central to the definition of reality? Tell me that. It's an important question. Let's take one example, the sense of smell. Olfaction. It happens when the odorants bind to the receptors in my nasal cavity. Information is transmitted to my brain. It happens in everyone. Now, how my brain uses that information and how your brain uses that information might be slightly different. We all pick up the pheromone smell, but does it translate? Are you able to pick up the rise and fall of the pheromone levels in the people around you? Is there ever a time you might want to understand that Jane or Joe are behaving in a particular way because of chemistry? A lot happens at the gut level, and human interactions are given over to the subconscious all the time. We allow our lives to run on autopilot, unconsciously glide through our day-to-day. The conscious man doesn't do that. I can smell you a mile away, but does that mean I'm psychic? What is psychic? Look at the heat practices of the mountain dwellers in Tibet. Should the exothermic chemical reactions of the body be considered simply one of the body's senses? No? Along with sight and smell? Every cell in our body gives off heat, byproduct of the chemical reactions. The endocrine system has a direct link to our chemical reactors, the brain, the central processing unit. Nothing metaphysical going on here. And I submit that the more developed your gyan, your awareness, the more in touch with your body and brain's natural abilities you'll become. When I started meditating in earnest, several years before I met my guru in the Himalayas and embarked on the path of the yogin, several years before I even knew the word yoga or had any education at all concerning these topics, I recall that one of the very first visceral experiences of my meditation was that heat was produced. And I played with that, fascinated. Very quickly I learned to manipulate and modulate my body heat at will. I viewed the energy flowing through and around me, and long before I'd ever heard of the term Vajrayana or Tantra, and long before I learned of correlations between inspiration and intuition, and intention and will and reality manipulation, I saw the ebb and flow and the constant and consistent flux of the universal harmonics, the energies that define our existence in all states of being. They are, in fact, the very bedrock of our being. At which point did it become akin to sacrilege to want to develop or otherwise know ourselves? The meditative state, it's a state of knowing. Ritambara pragya is that state in which one settles, the meditation having achieved the goal. The desire to develop and achieve, it is an absolute must on the path of attainment. What can be attained without the desire to achieve? Not to get confused. In the Gita, Krishna exhorts us to do our jobs because it's for that reason we are here in the first place. When the self cries out from the center of you to do this and do that, develop this and develop that, want this and want that, it's for that reason you're here. Not to force yourself in some other direction or tie yourself up in knots trying to accomplish something that you're not meant to accomplish this time, or trying to reject something which you are in fact here to do. Adi Shankara tells us, do what we are doing, and simply be as the beings that we are. Do what we are here to do. There's a lot of sense in that, and no meditation is going to get broken down living accordingly. If upon sitting down into meditation one stumbles upon an inspiration of energy and quite accidentally learns that the physical rules of reality can be bent in response to an inflection of such energy, is it not like a child learning how to produce melodies with a song or a whistle for the first time? If from within your meditative state you were to discover the body becoming lighter, allowing you to float or to fly, or the muscle mass becoming denser, giving you supernatural strength, or the intellect becoming more piercing, or any number of manifestations of reality and nature taking shape through you, there are precisely 2 choices at that point. 1, see that, acknowledge that, be that, bas. 2, do that, develop that, go further, intend, co-create with the universal creator and do your job. Either way, you're not wrong. And the desire to achieve or to go further is not going to break your meditative state. All the way unto that point where the desire to achieve quite naturally falls away of its own accord. Okay. Jai Shankar.